My name is Javier De Janon, and I represent Mr. and Miss Iwanski. I have been representing them in the matter of Jada Johnson that now has a pending federal lawsuit for her death, for her killing almost a year ago in Fayetteville. This occurred when the Fayetteville Police Department shot at her in her grandfather's home, and the complaint is public record if you want to look at it. This morning, we came here to meet with attorneys from the North Carolina Department of Justice. The North Carolina Department of Justice has been informing the family that they've been investigating this matter. They've been reviewing evidence to see if they would initiate a prosecution against the officers. In other words, they were looking to see if the North Carolina Department of Justice would have criminal charges against the two officers that were in the house. And this morning, they unfortunately told us that they will not prosecute the officers that committed the killing of Jada Johnson. They've informed us that they've reviewed all the evidence that we do not have access to as of this moment and determined that they just don't have enough grounds to charge the officers. Of course, the grandparents of Jada Johnson are heartbroken by this decision. This is a tragic addition to this timeline. The DOJ took almost a full year to make this determination and to communicate it with the grandparents. And because the investigation was pending all this time, the family has been having issues getting their property back, seeking access to evidence because the investigation's been opened. And after all this time, all this wait, is just to tell them that they will not be seeking a prosecution. We believe that the complaint we have filed speaks for itself, that it relays exactly what happened that night, that tragic night when Jada was killed, and we believe that there continues to be grounds for justice in this lawsuit. We don't believe that the North Carolina Department of Justice was going to give justice to the Iwanskis or justice for Jada. We learned actually that North Carolina Department of Justice has never prosecuted a police officer. And today, they continue on with this record of zero prosecution of officer killings in North Carolina. We asked for explanations, and they told us to refer to a report that will come out once the investigation is officially closed as of today. And we will be seeking that report to continue looking into this matter. We won't be able to answer many questions because, as you know, the lawsuit is open, it's pending, and we are in the process of moving through the steps in that lawsuit. But that is what happened this morning.
So this is the end of the North Carolina, but what about, is this a federal investigation still, and will you be pursuing a civil lawsuit?
So the civil lawsuit is ongoing against the Fayetteville Police Department, against the officers, and against the city of Fayetteville. Mr. and Ms. Iwanski will continue to seek justice through every avenue they can find. They have been tireless in asking for redress, in asking the government for justice. They tried at the district attorney's level here in Cumberland. They've tried at a North Carolina Department of Justice level, and they will continue trying to get justice for Jada.
And now that this is over, is the gag order dropped now so that the grandparents can talk?
So unfortunately, that is a Cumberland County order, and at this stage, the gag order continues. Mr. and Ms. Iwanski have not reviewed the video. They have not seen the video. Only the legal team has seen it. But yes, that is still in effect.
Can they give us a take on how you feel about this?
Because of the pending lawsuit, the Iwanskis will refrain from commentary, but I can tell you that the near 1 hour meeting where we got the news was heated. Mr. and Ms. Iwanski expressed their outrage at Department of Justice. They expressed how they can't understand that this is their decision. As the complaint says, and as it's written clearly, it's unclear how, with these facts, an officer did not commit a crime. It's not clear. The Department of Justice communicated that this was their decision and to refer to the report for further information.
Can you tell us who from the Department of Justice was there?
I believe it was Miss Jocelyn Wright and Mr. Boz.
And their attorneys?
They're prosecutors,
Boz
yes.
is the division chief for Special Prosecution Division, and Miss Jocelyn was the actual attorney assigned.
Mhm.
So what exactly would the North Carolina folks be looking at to be able to prosecute? In other words, what's their guidelines? Are there specific things in that nature?
So in the report that they showed us, but they couldn't hand over because the investigation hasn't been formally closed yet, they refer to a statute that protects officers when they commit, when they use deadly force. And this is a North Carolina statute that protects officers, basically justifies using deadly force. And so, in their opinion, after looking at all the facts, this statute would protect the officers from a prosecution. Um, what's mind-boggling, though, is as we know in our complaint, we don't believe this is true. We believe that there are grounds for civil litigation, and that the Department of Justice has made a decision according to its record, right? According to its decision to not prosecute officers.
Can you quote the
I'd refer to the report since I don't actually have it. We were only shown it.
is it something you've been familiar with at all? That
Yes, so unfortunately, I can't remember the statute number, but as I've said, there is a law that allows officers in North Carolina to use deadly force, and it justifies that use of deadly force. And there's several categories that the legislature has created exceptions where an officer is authorized to use deadly force. And what the North Carolina Department of Justice has done is look at that, look at the evidence as they see it, and determine if they can prosecute or not. But as I've said, even though we disagree with their decision, we're not surprised. It's tragic, but this is consistent with what has been happening with NCDOJ, with officer killings, officer shootings in North Carolina.
what's your next step?
Our next step is continuing with the civil litigation. We are awaiting for that to move forward. It has been assigned to a judge. I cannot remember the name of the judge, but that is public record. And we are now entering soon discovery, hopefully. But we are waiting for the lawsuit to move forward.
And obviously there's a different standard for a civil lawsuit in terms of burden of proof. Talk about that a little bit and how this decision by the DOJ impacts that.
Correct. So North Carolina DOJ and any prosecution, criminal prosecution, you're held to a higher standard. You have to prove something happened according to the law beyond a reasonable doubt. That is not the case in civil litigation. We have a lower burden of proof. But regardless of what rationale North Carolina Department of Justice used, we're not bound by that. No formal prosecution was started. It was an investigation that's now closed. So it really doesn't affect the lawsuit itself.
So, and you've seen the video, you've seen the tape and the body camera footage. Without speaking on it per se, what do you feel that the Department of Justice missed?
I think it's clear in the complaint. It's very clear in the lawsuit, right? We document, we narrate very clearly, step by step, what happened that night and how the officers fully secured Jada, how they had her fully secured when the other officer decided to shoot. And that is something that we believe the evidence show. We believe that the lawsuit speaks for itself. And at the end of the day, North Carolina Department of Justice is a political agency. It's a political body of the government. And so no matter how much we can argue with them, their decision is made already.
Should the community be disturbed by this decision?
I think so. I think the outrage that many families have in North Carolina, where police can kill someone, police kill someone, and then the supposed third party, the North Carolina Department of Justice, does not prosecute. That is alarming. The entity that's supposed to be removed from local politics has never prosecuted an officer, and that is concerning. That is concerning that you have no government body to turn to when you suffer that kind of injustice.
What does this case say, from your point of view, about the discussion of how officers respond to a mental health crisis? What does this decision by the DOJ say about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's sad because we were informed today that their decision is limited to deciding whether there's prosecution or not. We were told that this does not impact officer policy. This is not an evaluation of if the officers took right action. It's only on criminal charges. So, I mean, that tells us that the things go on as they have. I mean, things are going to keep going as usual unless the legislature intervenes, unless people organize to intervene, unless local policy changes. Today we walk out and things are just as usual.
Does that hurt the conversation going forward?
I think it shows the urgency. I think today's decision, which is another decision that's similar as before, shows how urgent it is for some kind of change, some kind of systemic change, change in how community crisis is answered, how mental health crises are responded to, who responds to them, who gets there first, what steps are taken to take care of people. The sad part, as the complaint says, is that officers arrived seeking to accuse Jada Johnson of a crime. That was the intention of the officers, and that's usually what officers do. And it's sad that when someone calls 911 asking for help in a mental health crisis, officers arrive looking for a crime instead of looking to help, looking to bring someone to the hospital, get them out of trouble. So if there's no other questions, to recap, right, today North Carolina Department of Justice has announced that they will not prosecute any of the officers. The lawsuit moves forward in the estate of Jada Johnson against Fayetteville and the officers in this shooting, and we will continue to seek justice in places where we might have a better chance of getting it.
Just for the record, sir, would you give us your name, spelling?
Yes, it's Javier De Janon. That's Xavier. Last name is Dejanon, and I am of counsel at Johnson & Nicholson representing the estate of Jada Johnson.